This is the SImpit. I'm your host, Shaun, but the real star of today's show are the Girrosim XR 3-pedal set. This is yet another entry into the high-performance market in sim racing, in this case focusing on your feet. They are handmade in Europe and they feature a 2-year warranty. The Girrosim XR pedals are built to be adaptable to most sim rigs and feature a nice amount of adjustability. And despite that high performance and despite their look to some other very high-end pedals out on the market, these do come in at a very reasonable price. They actually start out at €385 or about $395 in the US for the 3-pedal set. That is actually less expensive than a set of club sports if you think about it. Now Girrosim, they do sell these pedals in sort of an a la carte manner, in that the XR pedals come in the 2-pedal set for only €320 or $328. You can then add the clutch pedal later if you want for only €65 or $67, which ends up being the same price as the 3-pedal set or that €385, $395 price point. Girrosim also makes a tuning kit for the brake pedal, which you can see I have a few pieces here. The rest are installed on the brake. That goes for an additional €30 or $31, and they also make a base plate for €35 or $36. For testing, we received the XR 3-pedal set along with the tuning kit, no base plate. This is actually my R-seat foot tray, not their base plate. So that takes our as-tested model to €415 or $426, which is very inexpensive when you consider everything that you're getting for the money. Now, when I received my Girrosim pedals, they came in some very clever packaging. In fact, I was actually kind of blown away by how small the box itself was. But inside, each pedal was individually held in its cutout position of the foam insert. As I pulled out each pedal, I can immediately recognize the quality of the parts as well as the high-end nature of each pedal. This is not a one-pedal design for all 3 pedals, but 3 independently designed pedals that share some overall features. They also seemed quite strong, and with the colored springs, they even had a bit of style or flair. The overall construction is actually fairly similar to some other designs that I've seen and tested over the years. I call it the ladder design. Sandwich plates with hardware between to make the spacing, a la the Girrosim belt, and again, a few other manufacturers as well. They are mostly made of metal. In this case, it is 1/8 inch or 3mm thick stainless steel, and they feature high-resolution magnetic sensors at the gas and the clutch, and a mavin load cell on the brake, along with a Leo Bodner control board inside. So let's take a closer look at the Girrosim XR pedals, talk about some of the adjustments that can be made, as well as some of the features of the pedals themselves. The gas and the brake actually come pre-connected with a wire or cable between them. And each pedal is either independently mounted to your sim rig or to their base plate, depending on the way you purchased your XR pedals. And there are some common features shared by all 3 pedals, like the lower tray with its adjustable angle, as well as the ladder type design of the pedal arm itself. There's basically a left and right hand side to the lower tray, as well as the pedal arm, and then they use multiple bars, bolts, and hardware to connect the sides to build up the shape and strength of each pedal. The base, or outermost portion of the pedal, acts as the mounting structure, as well as having that built-in incline allowing for one of 6 different positions of angle towards the driver. The next layer, or wall of the assembly, is the actual sides of the pedal that will hold the pedal arm, as well as the hardware that is different or independent for each pedal. And then the final plates are the pedal arms themselves. All of this structure is made of stainless steel, which should keep its nice finish for a long time. When focusing on the gas pedal in particular, we can look at the hardware that makes it unique to the other pedals. At the back is a small plastic box mounted into that ladder lower structure. The box has a wire coming out of its side that extends to the brake pedal. On the back side of that box is the plug-in for the printer-style USB cable, and below that, a tiny little pin connector that is where the clutch pedal plugs into that box if being used. At the front underside of the throttle pedal, you can see the magnet and the sensor that is measuring the distance of the arm as it is pressed in. You can also see the bushings that allow for smooth movement of the pedal arm. The resistance of the throttle pedal is done with a single spring. There are 2 adjustments that can be made to the throttle's resistance, starting with increasing or decreasing the preload on that spring by turning the plastic stopping knob. And this is a heavily sprung throttle pedal. Some people are going to want it lower right out of the gates. You can also change the resistance of the pedal by lowering or raising the front mounting position of the pedal arm. This changes the leverage and therefore will lower and raise resistance in addition to the spring. You can also adjust the amount of throw on the gas pedal by moving the midway ladder bar forward and backward. This bar is literally the pedal stop. Another adjustment that can be made to the gas pedal is moving the pedal face up and down depending on the size of your feet, your mounting location, and the size of your heel plate. For extra tall scenarios, you can actually flip the pedal face upside down and make it even larger. The brake pedal is slightly different from the gas pedal when it comes to the design and operation. The entire rear section of the pedal is actually hinged on the mavin load cell. The front side of the load cell is mounted to the front half of the pedal, and the back half is bolted to the rear side with the spring stack pressing down onto the load cell assembly. Above the load cell and extending to the midpoint of the pedal arm is the combination stack of 2 bushings and a small purple heavy spring. At the stock setting, like the throttle pedal, this is a very, very heavy pedal and mimics a race car brake pedal, not a typical street car. This is a heavy pedal that requires big pressure. There are a few adjustments that can be made to the brake pedal to dial it into your desires, like adjusting the spring stops to add or lower the preload on the spring, and you can also add 2mm bushings inside the elastomers to limit the overall travel, and then if you have purchased the tuning kit, you can play with the 3 different durometers or strength of bushings to make it lighter or heavier or even dual or triple stage with combinations. Also, like the throttle pedal, you can adjust the pedal face up and down in height as well as flip it over for super high pedal face. The clutch pedal is very similar to the throttle pedal with a few differences. It uses a slightly different spring retainer on the back end of the pedal, and this changes the angle that the spring rod moves when the pedal is pushed in. It has a heavy blue spring that's preload can be adjusted with the plastic stop and a wrench, and you can also adjust the leverage strength of the clutch by raising or lowering its mounting point on the pedal arm. Like the throttle, you can adjust its end stop on the mid bar of the pedal base. It has the same magnetic measuring system of the throttle, but instead of the control box, there is a long wire that plugs into the control box on the gas pedal. The face of the clutch pedal can also be moved up and down as well as flipped over. Now, if you purchase the base plate from Girrosim, it has some slots in it that would give you a little bit of adjustability left or right with the pedals if you mounted them on their plate. Now, depending on your rig and how you're going to mount the pedals would completely affect the overall shape and size of the pedal set. And one of the great features is they are so easy to independently mount, whether you're talking a wood rig, a profile rig, or as you can see, I have them bolted down to my R-seat on the little slots that they had. I even had a little bit of left and right adjustability as well. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the overall measurements and the amount of travel that you can expect from the Girrosim pedals, and that'll affect how they mount in your rig. The mounting plate of each pedal is about 5 inches or 127 millimeters long by about 3 1/4 inches or 83 millimeters wide. They have slots on each side that are about 66 millimeters apart wide and then are about 47 millimeters apart front to back and about 25 millimeters long. This gives you lots of freedom for mounting. The overall height of the pedals is adjustable, but with the faces in stock locations, the pedals are about 9.5 inches or 241 millimeters tall. The throttle's pedal overall length is 7 inches or 178 millimeters long. The throttle pedal face is 2 3/4 inches or 70 millimeters wide at the bottom for the heel toe extension, and then a little over 2¼ inches or 57 millimeters wide at the top. The pedal face height is 6¼ inches or 159 millimeters tall. The brake pedal's overall length is 8 inches or 203 millimeters long and is the longest pedal of the three. The brake pedal face is 4¾ inches or 121 millimeters tall by 3 inches or 76 millimeters wide. And the clutch pedal's overall length is about 6½ inches or 165 millimeters long, and its pedal face is 2¼ inches or 57 millimeters wide by 5 inches or 127 millimeters tall. Another thing that determines whether a set of pedals is high performance to me is the amount of adjustability built into it. And in the case of Girrosim, you actually do have adjustable throw or distance of travel for each of the pedals, and it is actually pretty easy to make those adjustments. So the throttle pedal itself, at its minimum or shortest throw, is about 1¼ inches or 32 millimeters, and when it's adjusted to its longest amount of throw, it increases all the way up to over 3 inches or 76 millimeters. With the brake pedal and the nature of a load cell, it's a little more difficult to measure the overall distance of travel, but it is still adjustable in the case of the Girrosim XR pedals. But it seems to end up being a little bit under 3 inches or 76 millimeters in its stock configuration. I did find that to be pretty good for me, but for those who want less, you can add the plastic spacers. I did a test with 3 on each bushing, so 6 spacers in total along with heavier bushings, and that reduced the travel to about 1½ inches or 38 millimeters, but you could decrease that even more if you wanted to. The clutch pedal operates much like the gas pedal, and at its longest moves about 3 inches or 76 millimeters, but could be reduced down to only 1¼ inches like the gas if you wanted to. I did also receive the tuning kit for the Girrosim pedals, which was a really nice added option. It gives you so much more freedom to tune the brake pedal to your liking. So by default, it came with the 2 of the 70 kilogram elastomers combined with that purple spring, which was a really good setup for most people. And I already talked about the amount of travel, but you could have changed it with the spacers. With the tuning kit, you can actually opt for the blue, which I believe are the 80 kilogram, or the orange, which are the 90 kilogram elastomers, and that can dramatically affect the pedal's strength and even the travel just with the thicker density elastomers. And these changes are really pretty easy to make. You just have to remove the lockdown nut of the shaft of the pedal arm, unscrew each of the pieces off of the threaded rod, and change out the stack and then reattach. You can use any combination of the elastomers and even change the spring out for one of the elastomers as well, and even play with the amount of shims to affect the travel distance. I tried many different combinations before coming up with my final choice, and after getting that dialed into my preference, I recalibrated the pedal in DI view. When it comes to the installation of the Girrosim XR pedals, it really comes down to how you purchase them and your type of rig. I mean, if you ordered their base plate, it's pretty basic. You're going to just bolt down the pedals, bolt that into whatever your rig is, and it's that simple. But with their 4 slots per pedal, it's really easy. If you had a wood rig, you could just use wood screws and zip them down into position, build up a heel plate if you need it, and you're all done. In my case, again, I'm using my R seat, and it has a very sturdy pedal tray, so I didn't need the additional heel plate. And luckily, with those slots that are already drilled into it, it was as simple as adding 4 bolts, and all 3 pedals were mounted securely to my rig. And then it was just a matter of plugging the clutch into the gas pedal control box, and then plugging the USB cable into my computer. It was that easy. On the computer side of things, they are completely plug-and-play pedals, so you can basically just plug them into your computer, calibrate them in-game, and start using the pedals. They are going to work out just fine. But if you're at the Girrosim website, you will notice that they recommend using DI view, which is a very common third-party software for calibrating various devices into your computer. And I know third-party software can be a little intimidating, and when you first fire it up, it is a little bit mind-blowing, that piece of software. However, Also at the website at Girrosim, they have a link to a video on YouTube that they did that made DI View so easy to use, and I highly recommend using it to get the most out of your pedals. With DI View, you can set a limit for the pedal at rest as well as at full throw, and then mathematically select the center point. This gives you full control to give a 1-to-1 ratio or build up any curves that you want. You can also set any additional dead zones that you will want as well. In the end, you can get a perfect calibration, and if you make significant changes to the pedals, you will want to recalibrate it here as well. Well, at this point, it takes me to the most fun part of the review, at least for me that is. That's when I get to drive on the pedals, or at least tell you what it's like to drive with these pedals. At this point, I have them mounted nicely to my rig. We've taken care of all the software needs, but I do have them in stock settings, so I will likely be making some adjustments throughout my testing phase of driving, and I'll tell you about some of that during this as well. For my testing, I'd be doing a combination of 2-foot or left foot braking, as well as doing plenty of heel-toe driving to fully utilize the clutch pedal. My R-Seat S1 chassis is a classic GT driving position rig, with the seat well elevated over the pedals. In the stock or flat position, I found the pedals to be absolutely perfect at my feet, and I didn't need to incline the pedals or my pedal tray. From there, I really started by focusing on the smoothness of the pedals. Each pedal of the Girrosim XR pedal set moves very freely. Those bushings allow for great movement and at the same time have very little free play or wiggle in the left or right direction. As I mentioned, I do like heavy springs on my gas pedal, and to be honest, the Girrosim XR pedals came with a stronger pedal than even I like. I immediately backed that spring down pretty quickly, which made a big difference. It is still a heavy gas pedal, but when I combine that with a long throw pedal, which the Girrosim are, I can really control my throttle application when coming off the corners. I actually have a bit of a gas mashing problem, and a stronger spring and a longer throw pedal actually cures that driver deficiency. The brake pedal was also pretty heavy, and still had what I would call a medium amount of throw to it. For those who have never driven with a strong brake, it will be a little shocking at first and will test the strength of your rig, your seat, and even your lower back. A heavy brake requires putting more than just your foot into it. But much like I described when talking about the gas pedal, this strong pedal allows you to really modulate the pressure well. That strength can be pushed on, and then with just the slightest release or increase in pressure, you get more or less braking. If you have a tendency to lock up the brakes, it is often the overpressing of the brake pedal in speed or distance, and the nature of a heavy-duty load cell pedal helps prevent that. Between the brake and the gas pedal of the Girrosim XR pedals and how they feel at my feet, I know that the Girrosim team was going for a full real-life race car feel to simulate. There is nothing street car or gamey about these pedals. They are full race, full sim. The clutch pedal was also heavily springy when compared to most pedals. It does have a very slight release point feeling, as the spring bar pivot point creates a friction point followed by a release or push-through point. However, it is not quite as noticeable in feeling as some cam-operated clutch releases that I have tested recently. But with that heavy spring, it still did a fine job of giving me what I needed in terms of the resistance and prevented runaway application of the pedal for those with hyperactive feet when driving. With that said, I have always had a bit of a personal argument over sim clutches, because the release point is not timed with the game, and therefore hard to make feel realistic anyways. When it came to the performance of the pedal, it was being used by me mainly while heel and toe driving with a manual shift car. In this scenario, the clutch is strong, smooth, and springy. I could really hit it hard for quick shifts time after time, really hammering on that poor pedal, and it always came back for more, just as smooth and stiff as before. The combination of all three pedals and the heel-toe usage also worked well. The heavy pressure on the brake allowed me to get some good pressure without increasing the throttle too much while my right foot operated both pedals. I also found the relief area of the gas pedal, or the heel extension, to work really well and line up nicely with my shoe. I had really good heel-toe action going with these pedals, even though that is not my main way of driving or my specialty. The Girrosim XR pedals performed as well as any pedal set that I have tested. Everything about their performance is high-end and gave me instant results. When I drive for competition instead of reviewing or testing products, I have to admit I am a 2-foot driver, meaning that I have my left foot on the brake, my right foot on the gas pedal, and the only time I use the clutch is for race starts or emergency turnarounds. In this scenario, as I mentioned, I like a very heavily sprung long throw gas pedal, and I like a very heavy brake pedal with very minimal amount of movement. So I did make some tuning adjustments with that tuning kit to get the most out of the pedal for me, and my favorite combination was actually 2 orange, or the very hardest durometer bushings, along with the black bushing, not even utilizing the purple spring. I left the stock shims inside to affect the total travel, and then recalibrated and reevaluated the operation of the Girrosim XR pedals in that type of configuration. With this setup, it was most comparable to other pedals that I have loved when dialed in for me. The stronger the brake, the more accurate I am braking. It's a personal preference, not a right or wrong issue. It allows me to very easily build up pressure without slamming the brake to lockup point. It allows me to increase that pressure all the way to apex with so much control. The Girrosim pedals met those standards, and when tuned, gave me as much performance as any pedals that I've tested. With the long throw on the gas pedal, I had the perfect amount of variable. No, let's face it, the most amount of control on my bad footwork that I could get. The pedals worked out just great. So I think that tells you everything that you need to know about the Girrosim XR pedals. But as you know, I like to make things perfectly clear by breaking it down with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line, starting off with the good, that being great price. Super heavy brake pedal. Great feeling brake. Tuning kit. Heavy duty throttle spring. Adjustable. Long throw pedals. Adjustable. Easy to adjust. High resolution. Stainless steel metal. Built to last. Individually mountable or base plate. Made in Europe. 2-year warranty. A la carte purchasing. Save money, upgrade later. And now on to the not so good. I guess they're not quite as fancy as some other high-end pedals. Must use DI view. Use their video to help. Not an extreme clutch release or cam action. And now on to the bottom line. I really did struggle to come up with things to put on the not so good list. So let's go ahead and go over the ones that I was able to come up with. Number 1, starting with, they're not as fancy as some other high-end pedals. Well, fancy schmancy, they got the job done. Number 2, DI View. It is a third-party software that could be intimidating to some people, but again, follow their video, even in a foreign language, just following the visual steps. Follow my steps. It's not that hard, and it really does allow you to get the most out of the pedals. And then the only other item on the list is not an extreme release point to the clutch or cam action. And well, that is true. You got to give it that. However, we are talking about the third pedal. We're talking about the pedal that some people don't even want, don't even use, don't even purchase. So I guess it is a fair assessment of the clutch's feeling when compared to some other high-end pedals, but at the same time, it does get the job done. Pound for pound, bang for buck, we have a new contender in the sub $400 pedal market. I mean, for those who can get by on a 2-pedal set without the tuning kit, you're only looking at $320. That's only $70 more than a Thrustmaster T LCM pedal on average purchasing price, and such a better pedal set. One of the things I always think to myself when I am reviewing a product is, what if a good friend of mine was getting into sim racing? What is the recommended choice that I would give them? And if I had a friend getting into sim racing at a moderate budget level, I would probably steer them towards these as one of the selections, because quite honestly, at this price, they do rival some higher end pedals, and they probably beat out their competition at a similar price point. So last warning I do need to give you is these are heavy duty pedals, so there will be no racing in socks, at least not for me. They would hurt my feet, they take too much strength, and you are going to need shoes while you're driving them. So I hope you've enjoyed our review of the Girrosim XR pedals, and if you want to check out their new website, we have a link to it in the description of our show. I want you to be sure to thumbs up if you liked our review. Be sure to subscribe if you want to find out when our next review video comes out. And most of all, I want to thank you for watching. This is the SImpit. I'm Shaun Cole, and I'll see you on the track.